Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Growth Circuit, which is powered by Petion AI Solutions. This podcast was created for founders and future entrepreneurs to talk about what has gone well for them, but also what they look for when they're hiring people, or if you're in the tech industry, what's going on with IT churn. I want to say for anyone that's looking to start their own company, younger entrepreneurs, or even young adults, if you're looking to get an edge, this podcast is here for you as we're tapping into some of the elite leaders in their companies as well as high-level executives. Once again, I want to say thank you and welcome to the Growth Circuit, again powered by Petion AI Solutions. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Growth Circuit podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Petion, and with me today, I have someone truly special, Mr. Tony Ma, who is the CEO and founder of Benten Technologies, Inc. Mr. Tony, welcome, and thank you for joining the call.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome, Mr. Tony. Mr. Tony, before we go into a deeper dive, tell us a bit about your background and what led you to start Ben 10.
So I am Tony Ma. I consider myself a social entrepreneur. I look young, but as Asians, we age well. I'm over 50. I cut my teeth during the first .com. And so I've always considered myself an oddball and always been entrepreneurial in nature, even growing up as a kid. I always did stuff like in elementary school. I would bring packets of noodles, ramen noodles, and crush them up and then try to sell them. Unfortunately, I guess I was raiding my parents' pantry and using that to make 50 cents to a dollar or something like that. So that was early in my journey. In fifth, sixth grade, I was already hustling, as they would say. And then in middle school and high school, I would get side jobs to earn some extra money. I would, as a kid, also was part of some. I forget the name of the organization, but they would actually you would have Christmas cards and other, and you would sell them, and in response, as part of that, you would get like points to earn like a telescope and stuff like that. So in my early in my journey, I was hustling, doing door to door sales and stuff like that. So all along the way, I always felt like this urge to do like sales, marketing, and always had that entrepreneurial mindset. So
No, that's awesome, man. And I always tell people when you're young, if you find yourself selling, then you're a seller at heart, and that's pretty cool, man, to see that you were selling, especially when you said fifth, sixth grade, you're selling. So that's pretty cool, man. So what problem were you trying to solve when you created Ben 10?
actually, when I started Benton, it was out of interest by others. So again, I fell into this entrepreneurial space during the first .com. So I did have one or two jobs before I went on my entrepreneurial journey. And on my second job, I was in the telecommunications space, and I was fortunate to be hired to work for this startup. It wasn't as much of a startup back then, but it was a company called UNet. So UNet basically built the backbone for the internet. So I came in, inherited some platforms that were developed by the founder, Rick Adams. And so I had to, didn't have a lot of coding and documentation. And at the time, because things were moving so fast, the organization was looking to implement like a large $50 million platform. Being
Hmm.
wet behind the ears, I got to be put in charge of that as a project manager. So really had that imposter syndrome, but learning from my manager, and then basically becoming a project manager, learned all those skill set and quickly rose through the ranks to implement that platform. Then was tapped by the various executives to also support the launch of a faxing platform called UUFax, right? And so at the time they invested, I believe, $100 million back then. This is before the dot bomb. Money was flowing freely, and so I was able to implement a platform that was able to generate over 2.5 million in monthly recurring revenue.
Wow.
It was faxing through the internet, and then from there, I left that because I was being headhunted by a bunch of people, and they said, "Hey, you can start your own consulting." And so I became a management consultant, and so from there, that was what started the company or that journey. I did have originally started it with four individuals because we were going to do some products. So there was a side of me and these other three founders that about building a product, and we actually had a prototype. And during this time, I was also completing my master. So there was a product that we built. It was called encrypted chatting before that became popular, and we had a prototype. Unfortunately, the dot bomb came, and two of the founders decided it wasn't for them, and so they left. And so the other co-founder, who's been my co-founder to date, Katie, she stuck with me, and so we uh,
Mm,
closed that business and opened another one around management consulting. So that's where the journey, and that's where Benten started. It stands for Benten is actually a Japanese word which stands for
mhm,
like goddess of wisdom, but it's around wisdom, beauty, and all this other component. And so from there, that's how that journey started. Since then, we
mhm,
did pivot about more like 13, 14 years ago from a management consulting to a social innovation company, back to our original roots of products. So for a long time, we were a successful management consulting company,
mhm,
consulting both to commercial clients, was tapped by the VA to launch a
mhm,
platform there, and then won a large $32 million contract to support the entire state of Maryland, to working under the both the O'Malley administration and the early days of the Hogan administration. So that, but around that time is when I had my midlife crisis, and my co-founder too, and said, let's pivot and go back to our roots and look at social innovation.
No, that is awesome, and I think you guys did it at the right time because around that time is where everything started changing as well. And I love that you mentioned the dot-com bubble. I look at like the dot-com bubble starting in 2000, well, I would say 98-ish,
Mhm.
around 98, and everything. Then you had the Bitcoin bubble that came out in 2012. Yeah, and
The real
now
estate
I think
bubble. Mhm.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's now I feel like we're back into the dot-com bubble with artificial intelligence as well. Like
Mhm.
it's crazy.
Yep.
When you look at like software development, what shifts or trends do you think is shaping the future right now?
I think one of the biggest, of course, is AI, right? You have like
Yeah.
Claude Code. I mean, we were actually into AI before AI became popular, right? So I'm a technical co-founder with my co-founder Katie Chang, and so I used to code a lot. I still have an itch every once in a while but have gotten away and done more of the sales, marketing, and other piece of the company. So that's been my focus. And Katie, my co-founder, still focuses on the operations, the technical, and stuff like that. But so still very involved in how that process works. But since we're doing a lot of social innovation around digital health products, there's the
Yeah.
design and development. So two key parts of the development process, and even understanding like customer journey, getting requirements. I believe that from an AI perspective, that has been totally disruptive. It's disruptive in so many ways, including how you do customer discovery, how you do even the requirements and all the different processes, all the way to even the testing, right, and
Yeah.
design. So AI itself has been very disruptive in how you do software development, specifically, including the ability to have this wealth of information to do some of the coding. I know there's this trend about vibe coding where people that
Yeah.
don't even have that technical background can do vibe coding. I think that's still good, but I think it's also important for people to understand some of the fundamentals. Like my wife, she was a studying to be a pharmacist, and then she during the pandemic she wanted to switch career, and it's a data science. So she went and got her master's in data science, and understanding that she hated coding, even
Mhm.
when she was doing her undergraduate and graduate degree, because she had to do some basic C programming or other stuff like that. But what ended up happening is once you understand the fundamentals of it, then I think that's more helpful for the vibe coding and also the use. So AI has been transformative, and from that perspective, it can help you be lean as far as
Mhm.
running lean companies. And you can see that, they say AI isn't going to take over your job, but I think it is, right? So you see a lot of layoffs happening now.
Yeah.
You have like entry level programmers and stuff like that. So with these tools, it is taking over the coding space. It's taking over all the different spaces. So I think, it would be disingenuous for any entrepreneur, any business owner, any to say that it's not going to take over the world. It is, and it's going to take away those early entry level jobs, and
Yeah.
I think it's going to also take away the jobs of the people that aren't adding any value, right? Like one of the things we say for our company and our employees is, if you're not doing any critical thinking and adding on top, if all you're doing is running prompt engineering and not doing the critical thinking, whether it's the customer discovery, understanding how that product might work better, the testing, so that you're adding value on top from that critical thinking, then it will fully replace you, right? Because if you're not
Yeah.
adding additional value,
Yeah.
then I can have an agentic AI. I can, with the movement towards agentic AI, that's the next step, and that's why you see these layoffs, right? So it's in addition to just creating and leveraging AI, what's the value? I think there's still a need for that
Yeah.
human in the loop. The best AI is each person's brain. So if we're
Mhm.
not leveraging that to some degree, then there's a high likelihood that your job is replaceable at that level, right? So so you have to always be questioning, if I'm using AI, that's great, but what value am I adding to my employer,
Yeah.
so that my job isn't
It's
replaceable?
it. Yep. And I completely agree. As I look at the rise of AI, I look at it in a way of it's, don't get me wrong, I think it's amazing. I think it's great. But in the same time, I look at it as there need to be guidelines, right? Like some guardrails to it. Where to me, for my business, businesses, I have AI launched throughout my businesses. I even own an AI company as well. And I help I have had hundreds of companies input AI into their company, and unfortunately, they have laid off people, right? But also, I'm a strong believer where with people is like now is the time for you to really get the education that you need to show your worth to the company, because just like you said. Um, Artificial intelligence is great, but I still think that there's a need for human touch,
Mhm,
where intelligence is genuinely cannot show empathy and sympathy, right? It can't. It's gonna give you an answer whether you like it or not. That's the answer.
mhm,
Versus a person, has emotions, can show you empathy, sympathy,
mhm,
connect with you as a human. So I do think that yes, it's already changing. Companies are already changing that way.
mhm,
But for anyone listening, especially for younger people, um, this is the perfect time for you to up your education and learn some skills and learn people skills, how to talk to people, how to do other things, because AI is coming and it's coming fast. Mr. Tony, so I know you touched up on this, but tell us about your company. What do you do specifically, and who do you serve?
Okay, so Benton Technologies, since its pivot, we
Mhm.
do R&D, social research to develop digital health solutions to democratize healthcare. So our bold, we call it BHAG, our big, hairy, audacious goal is to serve and impact 1 billion lives. So being an
Awesome.
immigrant myself, I consider myself, of course, a U.S. citizen, but also a global citizen. So we're doing work and research not only here in the U.S., but internationally in countries like India, Nepal, things of that nature, and trying to do work over in Africa as well. So from there, we're building a digital health solution. We're a big believer in the use of AI to what we say leverage time, technology, and education to democratize healthcare. Right. So we're building solutions around that. We believe in an ecosystem. We believe in working with like researchers as well as healthcare providers, health systems to transform care. And we've leveraged a lot grant funding to be able to do that. We believe that it has to be scientifically driven, evidence based. We believe that healthcare is human care and there has to be some of that human touch. So we don't believe it will fully replace the human, but it'll be a superpower, whether it's a nursing staff, a community health worker, or somebody else. It's going to 10x that individual's throughput or output, right? So again, there still needs to be that human trust. There needs to be that empathy, that sympathy, right? Nothing beats that, right? Of course, it's mimicking, and there's in even a lot of cultures, people are starting to uh, I guess relate. So we put in a lot of theories into our work that's scientifically based. So there's one of the theories called parasocial, right? So it's similar to like TikTok style videos or other things like that. People develop one-way relationship. So this is in the scientific literature. So even if, like, say, for example, Jeff, you created like a TikTok video or like Mr. Beast, right? So people see all his videos, right? And
Yeah.
they people can relate to him, and they maybe even mentally consider them like a friend, but it's a one-sided relationship. Mr. Beast is not, friends with all his followers, but the way he talks to you through the video and stuff like that is this one-way relationship. So that can be effective to a certain degree. So you can do that. And you see this growing what they call like AI influencers. So there's some realistic influencers. So that's an example of how you can possibly build some level of relationship, but it's not the same, right? Some people still, in especially our work in the healthcare space, they do want some human touch. You might be able to synthesize or basically have some artificial level, but at some point you still do want some empathy, sympathy from somebody that you can touch and feel and stuff like that. So we see that as possibly in those what we call episodic visits and stuff like that. So you still need that, but in between you can also synthesize or some of this other. So it may be like a digital twin or an avatar of that doctor or that to kind of further support, and so that it's 10xing their throughput, right? It models them and they follow up and make a
Yeah.
call and stuff like that, and they're authorizing that. There's of course a lot of ethical considerations, but now that doctor or that nurse or that community or that licensed case manager can do a lot more with their time so that they can reach more people and then use that time that they save to have more meaningful conversation. It's kind of like with the AI scribes, right? If you go to the doctor's visit, I don't know if you've seen that shift, but a lot of the like Epic and stuff like that, they're putting in this AI scribe, you know, pre-pandemic you go to your primary care like your annual before they were looking at the computer and not even seeing you. But now they're like, if you I don't know if you've had that experience, but recently in the last 2 years they've been rolling that AI scribe. So now they're not looking at, they said they just ask for your permission, can we have the AI scribe record our session, and they're turning to you and having a more um, you know uh, conversation that's real because they're looking at you versus looking at the screen and seeing you as a person. So that's an example of how AI can continue to help and support. Now they're not worried about typing in the note during because they don't want
Yeah.
to waste time afterwards, but it's all being done before or during, not before. So.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing too, that you touched up on something, the time, right? It's like getting your time back to do more meaningful things.
Mhm.
So that's pretty cool. As you
Mhm.
look at your company, currently right now, let's say for the next year, what are things that you are focused on?
Mhm.
Whether it's growth, whether it's you wanting to work on a specific project, what are you focused on for the next year for your company?
Yeah, so one of the big things is we've been building out our digital health platform. So we've done different pilots and different things. So our plan is to launch and sell at the beginning of the new year. So we're already moving forward to doing that. We have several states interested. I won't get into all the details, but
No.
interested in this platform. So we'll continue to look towards getting more paid pilots around
Okay.
some of these states and also continue to get partnerships with different health systems to continue to refine and improve this platform. So that's our next goal for 2026. That's a big goal for 2026, and we're preparing a lot of the marketing, other types of material, and just all the nuances and finishing the testing round out 2025. And 2026 will be looking towards paid pilots for different health systems and providers.
Awesome. That's a huge goal, and you guys are gonna kill it. Now,
Mhm.
let's say you had a magic wand, right? Just a magic wand that you could wave to fix one thing right now in the business that's holding you back or slowing you down. What would that be?
I guess duplicating. I'm already trying to do that. How to create a clone of Tony and a clone of Nico myself. But there's actually types of softwares and approaches to do
Mhm.
that with cloning. So I mean, for
Yeah.
different perspectives. So I think that's really key. And like I think it was Sam Altman. I might be misquoting, but he says that in the future you can actually have a $1 billion company with just like one or two individuals. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I think it's more fun to share it with a group of people, but how do um, clone more of me and my co-founder because we do have a lot, but of part of scaling up and scaling up operations is that how do you train other people that may be more junior or may not have that
Mm.
experience. So I
Yeah.
think moving forward, that's the biggest challenge is how to scale and scale with the knowledge that me and my co-founder have. So
Okay.
that's kind of what we're looking at.
No, and trust me, I ask myself that same question with some of my businesses. How the heck do I clone myself to put myself in there? But no, I know the pain point there. So with you, like, what's one thing, or should I say, what's one lesson that you had to learn early, to keep you just being resilient through all the challenges?
I think key is having systems and keeping it simple and then
Mhm.
applying. Again, they say about 60% of entrepreneurs have like ADHD and stuff like that, and big
Nice.
shiny, because there's a lot of things you're trying to chase and you're trying to big shiny syndrome. My employees say, hey, what's the latest tool that Tony's trying to implement this year or stuff like that. So being consistent and just sticking to one and then having good systems in place, I think is really key to doing that. And one of the things I say to my co-founder Katie is, it really is about discipline, consistency, and then
Yeah.
from there, planning, execution, and monitoring. So those five things I think are really what I call the basics that you continue to work on because it is a challenge for me. I do like the shiny objects. There's lots of shiny objects with AI now, right? And then, but again, how do we get back to them? That's really key. How do we get the discipline, the consistency, and then being focused on that, and then planning execution and monitoring. How do we do that? So that really has been the message the last 2 years, I guess, is really kind of continuing down that path.
Awesome. No, Mr. Tony, it was a pleasure having you. Where can people connect with you? Whether it's LinkedIn, your company, this is your time. Where can people connect with you, or even just reach out to your company to see if you have something that can possibly help them?
Yeah, I thank you for asking that. So again, I've been trying to build my LinkedIn connection. A big believer in using that. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I believe you even tried to reach me, and
Yes.
sometimes I'm more active on that because it's on my phone,
Yes.
and it does the dinging and the notification. So on
Yep.
my LinkedIn, I think that's really been key, and also not only giving and receiving. So I'm a big believer in giving first, and then from there the universe gives back and stuff like that. So you can always reach out to me on my LinkedIn profile, can ask to connect and stuff like that, and continue the conversation. I'm also part of a group called Founders Network. I'm the local chapter of the DC. It's a national, global, of tech founders. So that's another area as well. So those are the two primary areas to reach out to me and then connect, and we can happy to meet up via virtual Zoom coffee or in person if you're in the DMV area, which is again, I'm not sure who's listening to this on the podcast, but in the Northern Virginia DC area, I'm willing to go up to 50 miles and meet, because I think, like you said, Jeff, it's always good to meet people in real life. There's this
Yeah.
connectedness. Even our employees, after all these years of hybrid, more of them are asking for that connection. I know we've been
Yeah.
doing some of that with like meetups and different corporate events where we're meeting like, but I think people do miss that, and they do want that balance. They do want the
Yeah.
flexibility. And so I'm the same way with me as far as my connection. So happy to connect with anybody. We can start out virtually if you're far, and if we're in the area. I've met people from abroad because of travels, or when I'm traveling. I always love to have that in real life connection as
Yeah.
well.
No, I understand. I'm the same way, man. Because it's better. It's and you feel I'm big on energy, and you can feel someone's energy. Like I love in-person connection, man. But no, I want to say thank you for coming on, Tony. It was a pleasure having you. The insights that you shared is truly valuable. And
Mhm.
to everyone listening to us, thank you so much for tuning in to the Growth Circuit podcast. I'm your host once again, Jeff Petian. And I'm gonna have Tony's LinkedIn on the bottom as well, so that if you want to link with him, just click on it and it'll bring you directly to his page. But to everyone, thank you for tuning in. Tony, until next time, it was a pleasure, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure as well, Jeff. Thank you so much.